Sonia Unplugged is now on the air. Prepare to be unplugged.
Welcome once again to the Sonia Unplugged podcast. I am, of course, Sonia, aka Sonia Barrett. This podcast is sponsored by Global Cardio Care Inc., Preventing Cardiovascular Disease with EECP, and the Sara Soulati Health for Life program. And of course, although I don't have cardiovascular disease, on numerous occasions I have experienced firsthand the life-changing power of the EECP machine. To find out more, visit globalcardiocare.com or call 310-412-8181 to schedule a free session. So that's globalcardiocare.com or call 310-412-8181 to schedule a free session. And of course, to find out more about me, Sonia Barrett, do visit soniaunplugged.com or therealsoniabarrett.com. I am, of course, the author of The Holographic Canvas, The Fusing of Mind and Matter, my second book, A Journey of Possibilities, and third book, Health and Inside Job and Outside Business, which is actually a book that is a supplement to my documentary, The Business of Disease, with a chapter written by everyone in the film, including myself. So that's thebusinessofdisease.com, where you can find out more about health and inside job and outside business, and my other books, of course, you can find out about at therealsoniabarrett.com. And you can also visit my YouTube channel. Just plug in Sonia Barrett and go to my YouTube channel for tons of videos there. My guest today is Sara Soulati, CEO and founder of Global Cardio Care Inc. She is a pioneer in the field of enhanced external counterpulsation, EECP, to prevent disease and work with elite athletes. In her early beginnings in 1996, Sara saw firsthand the power of EECP therapy for patients suffering from cardiovascular disease. She says, "I knew prevention of cardiovascular disease with EECP would become my passion, and it has. I launched the Sara Soulati Health for Life program in 2010 to modify lifestyle with vegan plant-based nutrition and exercise with the power of EECP. My daily work is dedicated to raising awareness about EECP to prevent, fight, and reverse cardiovascular disease." So today, basically, Sara is going to explain more about this wonderful technology, this machine, this EECP machine. She's going to talk about the body and understand this, that this is not just for people who have heart disease, but it is so much more, along with the other programs that she offers. So I encourage you to definitely stay tuned, listen in, because I don't have cardiovascular disease, and you will hear what I experienced using this machine. Well, it's time to bring in my guest, Sara, which I've had to work on saying that name, Sara Soulati, and I'm so happy to present her to all of you. This is going to be really a fascinating dialogue/interview. So, Sara,
yes.
Welcome to Sonia Unplugged, my podcast.
I love being here, Sonia. Thank you so much.
Well, I've had an opportunity to experience what it is that you provide, and it is awesome. So before we lead into everything that we're going to talk about in reference to your work, so Sara, for the listening audience who have no idea what global cardio is, would you just give us a summary before we lead into the detail of truly what it's all about?
Well, for me, I think when I tell you my mission statement, it's pretty clear. We're here to prevent and reverse cardiovascular disease. We want to save lives. We want to do it without medicine. We want to do it without surgery. We want to empower the person to make the changes that they need to make. And we have this amazing program. We have this amazing service here, which you've had the experience of getting on the treatment, which we'll speak about later. But it's all about saving lives. It's all about prevention. It's all about reversal of cardiovascular disease.
Awesome. So before we dive in deep, let's find out more about who you are. Who is Sara?
Well, people always ask me, like, how did I end up here? And I have to say that it was definitely God was involved every step of the way. At age 19, I became a vegan just by, I don't even know how it happened. I really was dissecting a cat in my anatomy class, and it looked like a chicken and it smelled like a chicken. And I was thinking, why does it look and smell like a chicken when you open it up and you look at the muscle and the flesh? And then that night I happened to read a book, which is from Paramananda Yogananda, Man's Eternal Quest. And he was talking about cleansing and how we have to take care of our body and not overworking our body. And then my mom happened to be giving me a chicken sandwich that looked just like the cat that I had dissected. And it changed my life. And I became a vegan. And that was the whole process for me, because I understood that, and this is 1989. I was thinking, well, you know what? Maybe food has something to do with all these problems. And about 2-3 years later, I went into the nursing program, and that was really difficult for me because it was nothing about nutrition. It was nothing about lifestyle. It was all about, well, this is genetic. This is who you are. This is what's going to happen to you. There's nothing you can do about it. So here's the medicine. And my whole entire 2 years of nursing, all I was doing was learning pharmaceuticals and then learning the side effects of the pharmaceuticals. And the plan of care for me as a nurse was, if you give this medicine to someone, look for all the side effects, and then we have to give other medicines for the side effect. And so it was really uncomfortable for me. I mean, I really hated it. And my dad is a surgeon, and my grandfather was a surgeon. I'm originally from Iran, and so we come from a long line of medical people. And I wanted to be in the medical field because even though my dad never verbally told me, it was something that was just instilled. And so I was trying to force myself to go into nursing, and then I decided maybe I should go become a physician assistant. So I did the physician assistant program. But throughout the whole time, I was just really, really unhappy until I fell into this line of work, which is EECP, which we'll get into and talk about it. And for me, it was just like a miracle, a godsend. Like, it was perfect for me because I get to speak to people, find out why and how they ended up where they were, so we can backtrack and start eliminating the actual root causes of things, not just on the concept of eating or exercising, but emotional parts of it, and sadness and depression and the things that we hadn't let go of that manifest into disease levels. So for me, my life has been about helping people, and it's just been such an honor to be able to give this service, and I love every single day the things that I get to do.
That's very clear. From everything that I see, there's so much passion. I'm just going to make a comment because I think this is so important. The fact that you realized that what you were doing based on, your family history of being in the medical field, that it just wasn't comfortable. There's something about this that's not setting right. And I think, unfortunately, so many young people, of course, now they're older people, have lived their whole life doing something that they don't enjoy.
Yes.
And that in itself is very suffocating and makes us sick, which we'll probably talk about a little bit as well. So I think the passion just makes so much a difference. So now you mentioned EECP, the machine, which I've used several times. That's been awesome. Would you now probably lead into that aspect of it, and then maybe we can talk about the dietary aspect? But the machine in essence and the working of
Definitely.
it.
It's an amazing machine. EECP stands for Enhanced External Counterpulsation, and it was actually invented in Harvard in the 50s. And so this was back then when there was no bypass, there was no stent, there was no blood thinners, and people would have heart attacks, and there was no way to save the heart muscle. And this amazing genius by the name of Dr. Birtwell created this hydraulic water compressing machine where, if you can imagine, you're laying on this bed, but there were these steel casings that your legs would go into, and there would be water pressure trying to move the blood from your legs back into the heart. And this was very, very successful, because when people were having heart attacks, we were able to get the blood up to the heart. And the most important thing is, obviously, as we know, when we're having a heart attack, it means we're not getting enough blood to the heart. Well, this was a very, very amazing treatment that he created, but it was kind of messy. Water was getting it everywhere because it was hydraulic. And the Chinese took the machine in the 70s and perfected it and took it from the water hydraulic system into the air compression, is what you've had today. So if you can imagine that you're laying down in a comfortable bed and 3 large blood pressure cuffs are wrapped around your calves, your thighs and buttocks, and to the rhythm of your heart. This is what makes the machine so amazing. It's because it's pumping to the rhythm of your own heartbeat, but it's pumping it when the heart is at rest. So it squeezes the calves, it squeezes the thighs, it squeezes the buttocks, and it moves the blood from the lower extremities and circulates the blood throughout the whole entire arterial system. The whole entire arterial system. Everybody talks about the heart. Cause of death in the United States, number 1 is heart disease, then we have the stroke, then we have cancer. And these are organ deficiencies that we're speaking about, but it's really the arteries that are the problems. What's the heart disease? It's not the heart that's diseased, it's the artery of the heart muscle that is blocked and blood can't get into it. The stroke, it's the artery of the brain that the blood can't get to the brain. Whether it's renal failure, you could have blockages of the kidneys, for the arteries in the kidneys. So I say this point because arterial health is so important. People are so focused on the organs, which are extremely important, but what about what transports the blood to the organs? And because we have arteries from the back of our eyes all the way down to our feet, and any time you have your blood flow is lacking, your circulation is poor, you have inflammation, all of this has to do with circulation. And because EECP is squeezing the blood and sending the blood through the artery walls, and it's secreting blood from head to toe. And when I started doing this work in 1996, there was only one other place in the whole entire world that was doing it. It was in Stony Brook University in New York. They were doing clinical trials, and there was a rich man that had got 4 of these machines and put them in Newport Beach, and he hired me. And I was telling you that I was in the physician assistant program, and I just finished 2 years of the nursing school program, and he hires me. He says, come work 2 or 3 hours a day. And then I saw this machine, and I was so used to bypass surgery. It became normal. I had to become numb to it. Like, we're just going to crack this person's chest. We're going to remove the vein from the leg. We're going to put it around the heart artery, and we're going to put staples down the sternum, and we're going to send this patient home. It was very, very normal to have stents, and people will still come back and have heart attacks. So when I was coming 2 or 3 hours a day to do EECP and then going back to the hospital, it was even becoming way more challenging at that point, because I was a vegan and I saw the hospital food. I saw how they weren't even being taught about nutrition. We were giving someone steak to eat before the heart surgery the day before. And so doing the therapy a couple hours a day and seeing that, wait a minute, this is amazing. I'm actually repairing the arteries of the person's heart without having to take an artery from somewhere else or vein from somewhere else. So right off the bat, I was in love with EECP, and there was nobody else in the whole entire country that was doing EECP except for Stony Brook, and actually in China they were doing it. And I got to just learn this on my own, and people were coming from all over the United States, and we'll get into all the different diseases that I got to learn from just observing the patient, making great assessment, documentation, having them come back, and now we're so clear on how EECP works for so many diseases, because bottom line is EECP is a circulatory treatment, it's an anti-inflammatory treatment, and when we're dealing with disease, we're dealing with poor circulation and inflammation. And that's why EECP is so amazing.
Yeah, no, that was obviously you've done this so many times, that definitely gave people, I think, a clearer picture as to how their body functions, how their body works, because I think that's a huge part of the issue. We are not educated in terms of how this body functions. We just don't have enough information. And I think you have to want to know. And when we understand the importance of circulation, as you just mentioned. But now let's look at, you mentioned the diseases. And we'll talk about also, if you don't have any particular disease that you know of, your blood is still flowing. You still need to keep everything going. So do you want to touch on that a bit?
Definitely. And, when we talk about what does EECP really do, there's so many things I could tell you. I mean, it's been 20 years, 1996 to this year, which is our 20-year anniversary of me doing this work. I've been a pioneer in this field. I remember when I was 19 or when I started this whole process when I was 26, I would tell doctors, there's this machine that you lay down on, it's giving blood to the pancreas, and now the pancreas is getting more circulation, more blood flow, and we're actually repairing the pancreas and helping secrete more insulin naturally. And the doctor would say, what are you talking about? This treatment is only for heart disease. Why would it work for the pancreas? And I'll be sitting there going, I'm not a doctor. I did not go to medical school, but I know if I'm sending blood to the heart and we're clear that it works for the heart, why would it not work for the brain? Why would it not for the organs? And so for me, because I was by myself really in this field, and I was pushing the envelope because people just wanted to live. They were rich, they were wealthy, they didn't want to die. And these are the type of people that would come to the clinic in Newport Beach. And they were paying like $200 a treatment back in 1996. And so I just said, well, if the patient wants to do it, the doctors are recommending it, we'll learn together and why this is happening. So common sense was always the rule. We took it down to the most basic fundamental. Why is the pancreas improving when you pump blood to it? Well, what happens when you exercise? And that's what EECP really is. So whether we're talking about heart disease, which is blockages of the artery of the heart, what EECP does is it grows new arteries. And I always have to change that sentence and say, what the human body does, it grows new arteries when there's a blockage. So anytime you have a blocked artery, your own body is going to start developing collaterals on its own. Some people can grow more collaterals because they exercise, they give it that blood flow to grow these new arteries. Some people can't grow them as well because they can't exercise. So when you're laying down on EECP, we're pumping the blood through the artery walls, and wherever that artery wall is blocked and it cannot get that blood through it, the body recognizes, wait a minute, this artery's blocked, let me start secreting a hormone that's called vascular endothelium growth factor, which now they've measured, and they see that when you do EECP, you have this growth factor occurring in the body, which they've done PET scans before and after, and they actually see collaterals all around the heart. So now not only are we seeing collaterals around the heart, so it's a natural bypass for people that have had a heart attack, for people that have congestive heart failure, cardiomyopathy, enlarging of the heart. All of this can be addressed with EECP because we're growing the new arteries, but we're actually improving the function of the heart. Heart failure patients that come in here, that their heart's not pumping at 100%, or at 75%, which is normal, they're coming in and they're doing EECP and we're making their heart stronger. So one of the biggest things that our body grows new arteries if you give it the right ingredients, and one of the greatest ingredients is take away the inflammation, make sure you don't have an inflammatory lifestyle as far as food, and give it that blood flow that you need. The other biggest thing that I think it affects all of us, regardless if we're young and old, is that because we mentioned that the arteries are everywhere in the body, as we age, we are diagnosed with like arterial stiffness, which is another word for like high blood pressure. You know, when we're young, we get stressed out, our blood pressure goes up, and then our arteries have this bounciness and suppleness. They can bounce right back. The blood pressure can come back down again. But as we old, and as the aging process kicks in, our artery walls start to become stiff and hard. And that's really what high blood pressure is. If I want to know how old you are, I don't need your driver's license. Let me take your blood pressure, because we're only as young as our arteries. And once again, because EECP addresses the arteries first to get that blood, it starts to reverse arterial stiffness by secreting nitric oxide again from the lining of the artery. People are focused about the organs, but that lining of the artery has the hormones, has the gas, has all the endothelium growth factors, and if you put pressure into that artery, well, it starts to secrete all these good things to come out into the body, and it causes a vasodilation, which means that it opens up the arteries. And that's why when people get on EECP afterwards, they have this runner's high. They're like really mellow. They're like kind of walking around. They don't know why they're so calm. Well, we're secreted nitric oxide to come out. We vasodilated. So after a certain amount of treatments, we're actually reversing the arterial stiffness. You reverse arterial stiffness, hardening of the arteries, you reverse the aging process. And it's not just going to happen in the arteries in your legs and not in the arteries in your heart, not in the arteries in the brain. It's going to happen everywhere in the body. And the last thing for me, which it was the most exciting thing, because I was watching patients, seeing their kidney patients that came in with renal failure, their kidneys were functioning better, they were able to now go to the bathroom and void and have pee, which before they couldn't function that way because they were on dialysis or they were waiting to get on dialysis. People that had, diabetes, that their pancreas was no longer secreting insulin. Then I kept thinking, well, why is this happening? I wonder how come their pancreas is now producing insulin, their blood sugar is normal, they don't need to take as much medication, people were getting off of insulin. And then we realized that they did a study and it finally showed that when you're laying on EECP, this amount of blood flow is pumping from the lower extremities artery. We're pumping this blood into the bone marrow, and we're pushing out stem cells to come into the circulatory system. And with the machine, we're circulating these stem cells, and it's starting to repair the organs that are dysfunction. So they started to measure stem cells before EECP and after EECP, and they saw, wow, there's actually improvement in stem cells coming out into the body and into helping the organs repair. So it's very clear that EECP addresses people that have blockages of the arteries with growing new arteries, helping repair stiff arteries, and helping with stem cells to come out, which we can reverse any type of organ dysfunction, which is really, really huge.
Yeah, wow. If you're listening to this, I mean, I know the people that listen to my podcast, and they get really excited because I love to bring information that is outside the norm, because that's what we need.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the norm has been limiting. The norm has kept people more in an oppressed state, whether it be health-wise or emotionally or whatever the case may be. But I think one of the things I also want to point out is when we're talking about circulation is the fact that there's oxygen involved.
Yes.
And that is so huge because most of the organs aren't really getting that much oxygen because of the blood flow.
And that's when and you're so right, and that has to be broken down that way, because when we're saying blood flow, we're just meaning that oxygenated blood flow is what we're looking for, to deliver to the body. When you lay on EECP, imagine when you exercise, you have to increase your heart rate, you have to increase your blood pressure to get that circulation. Well, if you're already, it's difficult for you to exercise, or you have chest pain, or you're not able to do that, or even if you're able to do that, when you lay on EECP, we're actually giving you a second heart. Your lower extremities start to, because the machine is pumping the lower extremities, it's pumping into the rhythm of the heart. So it's decreasing the workload of the heart, it's decreasing your blood pressure, but it's giving you mass amount of blood flow. Never in life does your heart stop really working. Even when you're sleeping at night, it's working, it's just less work. But when you're on EECP, we're decreasing the workload of the heart, we're decreasing your blood pressure, and then we're giving you this massive amount of exercise. So your body thinks you're running uphill as fast as you can, but your heart is doing no work. That's the magic. And it's not EECP again, it's just the human body wants that oxygenated blood, wants to not overwork, but get that blood flow. And anytime you circulate, you decrease inflammation, and every disease is inflammatory. So if we get rid of the inflammation, we've really done some great work with reversing and preventing.
Yeah, and absolutely. And pretty much everybody that you end up running into, everybody seem to have some degree of inflammation, but it's not recognized as that. I mean, you walk around, and because I pay attention to everything and everybody, and I've been into a holistic way of health, I recognize people with swollen ankles. I recognize things that people don't normally see.
You're like me.
Yeah, their fingers.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at what they're buying in the store. I'm like, ooh, that's going to make that worse.
Yeah.
You know? So everybody, I see women, especially, and I don't do the age thing, but I have to say around my age then,
Yes.
as socially defined.
Yes.
And I see the large bellies.
Oh.
And I understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I see what's going on because I've experienced a little bit of that, not to that degree, but enough for me to then really begin to understand the inflammation process.
Yes.
And they can't get rid of it. They
Yeah.
don't know what to do to get rid of it, and so they keep doing the same thing over and over. That
and then get medicated.
exactly, and
Yeah.
then the body
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
can't clean itself.
Yeah.
It's just way too much.
Toxic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have so many things I want to talk about, but let's touch on that again a little bit, because for people who are saying, I'm going to go to the doctor, I don't know why, I keep bloating, I'm swelling, and if you get medication, they need to understand how the body responds to that as something artificial, as something that doesn't belong there.
Yes.
In this chemical factory.
Totally.
So it makes the situation worse, even though the swelling may go down or whatever.
It's going to show up somewhere
It's
else.
going to show up somewhere else.
It's so true. And, because EECP was, when I was like 26, I was standing next to someone for an hour. Imagine like standing next to someone for 1 hour for 5 days a week for 35 days. And so you get to know this person. So I'm doing the treatment. I have no clue what I'm about to do. I'm like 26. I'm a vegan. I'm doing the treatment. And so I'm standing next to the patient. I'm like, well, we might as well talk about what you ate for breakfast, And so I started documenting what they're eating for breakfast. And then I'm like, well, when did you have chest pain? And they're like, well, I had chest pain last night. I'm like, what time?
Yeah.
And he's like, 9 o'clock. I'm like, so you had chest pain at 9 o'clock. What were you doing? He's like, I was sleeping in bed. I'm like, wow, this guy's really sick. Chest pain, in bed, at sleep. And I said, well, what time did you eat dinner? He's like, well, 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, so you're a cardiac patient. You ate dinner at 8 and then you went to bed at 9. And then I said, well, what did you eat? And he said, well, I had some meat. And I kept thinking, all that blood has to come out of your heart, to work, to go into the intestine just to digest that meat, which it takes like 48 hours to digest meat, 72 minutes for fruits and vegetables. So I said, just for fun, can we just not eat? And we should eat like at 6 tonight, and don't have meat. If you're going to have the flesh, eat it during the day just for fun. Let's have fruit, let's have vegetables and some, nuts at night, and then sleep at 9, but eat at 6, and tell me if you have chest pain. Came back the next day, no chest pain. I was like, wow, okay. So we figured out that the lifestyle was actually contributing to the process. So then we took that away, and then we cleared up the blood sugar issue, because they were eating like carbohydrates at night and they were waking up, their blood sugar was like 200. And I'll say, why don't you not eat carbs at night? Have your carbs at noon when the sun is at the highest point so you can digest. And I have to tell you that all these things that I'm saying, there was no internet back then. I didn't have ability to get on the internet, and there was no books on veganism and like lifestyle disease. And I realized that I was creating something on my own, and it was a lifestyle medicine that I was dealing with. And I would always say to people, medicine was designed for an emergency situation. Trust me, if I have an emergency, I'm going to the emergency room, but I'm going to go there just so I can get out of the emergency situation. But then I got to come back, and I got to change what caused the problem. We completely forgot in this society about what we are actually doing, and there's zero accountability on our part, because when you go to the doctor, he just says it's genetic and you need to take this medicine, because the whole medical system, my father went to medical school, it was like 2 hours of nutrition in a 10-year medical school. So they don't think that it's lifestyle. And so I get to go out and I get to speak to people and I get to tell them, and still today in 2016, people are so shocked to hear that cardiovascular disease is a lifestyle disease. And so I sometimes talk to people socially, and they're like, well, my mom had heart disease, and so I have it, and so I have to stop them and say, I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything. It's just you're just eating the same thing that your mom ate and your grandmother ate, and that's where that is. It has nothing to do with you, because God did not create this process. It's our lifestyle. So I always say, why don't you just clean everything out? Then see how you feel. then you start putting one or two things back in to see how you feel. When people are so toxic, they get used to feeling this way. People come to me, they're like, oh no, I'm fine, I feel great. I put them on the treatment. They get the blood flow, they get the oxygenated blood flow, they detox, we pump the lymphatic system, they lose 1 or 2 pounds of fluid because they're so toxic. They get up and they're like, you know what? I feel great. I said, this is how you're supposed to
That's
feel.
normal. This is that's the normal.
So you just get used to it. We
Yeah.
get conditioned to whatever
For
it is.
anything.
For
Well,
anything.
for anything, we just
Anything.
it becomes our normal.
Yes.
But I think that inflammation thing, man, I tell you. All right. So also emphasize, or at least explain to people a little bit more about the necessity for the heart actually beating less, because we live in a society of fight or flight.
Yes.
Everybody is
Adrenal fatigue.
exactly,
Yeah.
and people don't realize that. They think that they're fine, but their heart is like always like working overtime, like a lion is chasing us.
Totally.
You know,
Even when we're relaxing.
even when we're relaxing.
That's one of my favorite things to talk about, Sonia, because when I get people on the bed, right away I put them on the machine, and so my assessment skills kick in, and I'm like looking at this person, they're laying down, they're on this machine, they're not running, they're not doing anything, and at rest their heart rate is 80. And I say, okay. So right away I'm looking at the conditioning. I'm like, okay, and I start telling them, right away I go into, did you have caffeine? And I have to tell you, this coffee situation, that everybody is addicted to coffee, and they're so unclear on what they're really doing. They're jolting the heart. Yes, you were wanting it because it boosts you up and it gives you the energy, but how do you think it's doing that? It's making your heart beat faster, so you have this adrenal, blood flow going through your system, and they don't realize that if I'm going to run and if I'm going to walk and get my heart rate to 80, I'm using my arms and my legs to help my heart pump blood back and forth. If I'm sitting down at rest and my heart rate is 80, that's like having my foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. And so the less your heart beats, the longer you live. Sometimes we're focused on our car. We drive the car. We don't drive at 90 miles an hour 7 days a week. We go 30, we go 40, whatever. And so this is the engine of our heart. Our body is our heart, and we have to take care of it, give it the things that we need to so it doesn't work so hard. That's why that belly fat you were talking about, the obesity, the larger the body, the heart has to work harder. But sometimes I have these little people coming in, their heart rate is like 80, and I'm like, well, you go to the doctor's office and they say 60 to 100 is considered normal. And I'm like, how could that even be normal? 60 and 100 are so hugely different, but that's what it is in textbooks. So when you go to the doctor, he takes your pulse, he says 80, you're in the norm. For me, you come to me, you're in the 70s, I'm going, why? Why can't you be in the 50s? So our whole process with EECP is to decrease the workload of the heart and to condition the heart without you overworking it. And that's why we had such a huge success for healthy people coming in. Like we treated the Lakers, Shaquille came in, Layla Ali came in, and we realized that, I realized, it was so funny, Sonia, I was like, these 80-year-olds were coming on the machine, and they were coming with their walkers, and they were leaving without their walkers, and I was like 26 going, wait a minute, what if I got on the bed? And I would call New York, I'm like, Stony Brook, I want to get on the machine. They're like, Sara, this is not for healthy people. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. I mean, here's someone that's sick, has had a heart attack, has had a stroke, and wants to get amputated, and he's doing incredible after EECP. What would happen if I did it? So I got on the machine, I strapped myself on, and I can tell you that it was amazing. Exercise duration, recovery time, less lactic acid, better sleep. It's about quality of life. And that's what we get when we get the heart to condition without overworking it.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh, I'm excited. That's right. I missed my last two sessions because
I'm gonna hook you up today.
So much was going on.
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, everything she says is true, and I'm considered fairly healthy. I hike a lot, but even though I was hiking so much, I still had some issues.
Yes.
And with a combination of changing my diet,
Yes.
and being on the machines, I could tell a big difference. Yes, I would get that lactic acid from exercising in my legs sometimes, but being able to come in and do that made a big difference in my heart. I remember I used to lay down at night, and sometimes I could like feel like everybody could hear my heart beating.
Yeah, it was so hard.
Yeah, and then I started doing this, and then one day I noticed I don't really hear anything. Like everything is calm when I lay down.
I hear that a lot.
Or heart palpitations,
Right.
that we get, where your heart feels like it just did a somersault.
Yes.
Those things definitely I shifted.
Yes.
So.
And that's about prevention. You
Yeah.
know, and that's what it's about. I mean, there's no money in prevention. You know, the whole system is designed. Make sure the food that we're eating is going to cause the problem, the stress, the emotion, the lack of support of teaching and understanding. And people are like, have more information about everything that's external versus everything that's internal.
Right.
You know, it's like, I'm like, well, how do you not know that your heart rate is like 90 and you're laying down at rest? We should know that about ourselves.
Because it's normal.
Right.
It's become their normal.
It becomes normal, but they're not even aware, like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So I think the education process has to just start with self. Who are we? Like, what is happening inside? What is my blood pressure and what does that mean? What is my cholesterol and what does that mean? You know, just knowing those things and then seeing what you can do to make those changes. But the empowerment has to come from within, and that's why I'm so grateful that, you know, I got all the support for so many people that was able to help me, you know, be able to create this place, and someone, especially someone like you, Sonia, just to give me the opportunity to tell people, because it's 20 years we've been doing the work, still people don't know about it. You don't have to, you know, go through medicine and surgery. That's not the only option. There are other options, and educating yourself and coming here and doing this program, it's beyond EECP for us now, because we have a lifestyle program here. We want to teach people about everything that is contributing to their problem. So give them the choice. At least I can say, I gave you the information, you chose not to do it, I'm fine. But the problem always was for me that people would say, I wish I knew my mom was alive. I wish I knew my dad wouldn't have had that second heart attack. Well, this is why doing the work that you do is so, so important, to bring that awareness to people so they can have a choice.
Right.
Versus saying, I didn't know.
Right. And want to, or think of themselves as important enough to invest that kind of time in researching and in getting in touch with themselves, which is what you're saying. And I find that people are conditioned to have somebody else do the work for them. And as good as you think your doctor is, nobody knows your body better than you. Totally. When you're paying attention.
Totally. And that's the key word. When you have that awareness. People, I mean, like you said, I'm checking the same people. I'm seeing someone straight off, you know, coming into my office. I'm looking at their leg going, okay, does he have like 5 pairs of socks on, or is that like edema? You know, and then I'm looking at how they're just shorter breath sitting down. I'm fully checking them out head to toe, looking at the color of their skin, their eye color, everything, and just kind of seeing the health, the swelling, how tight is that ring on their fingers and all of that. So it's like, we get so conditioned, and this is what we're talking about. We get used to it, but we're focused on everything on the outside. You know, so you couldn't put your shoe on today. Did you question why your feet are swollen? You know, or even, you know, but they just get used to it.
They just get used to it.
But
can't get up off a chair.
Is that normal?
Yeah, is that normal? I mean,
what should we do? Because your body's giving you symptoms. The body can't go, hello, Sara, I want you to know. It gives, like, this one other, I was talking to someone last night, and they were having some issues with, like, possible colon cancer. I said, well, you know what? You've had this symptom for a long time. You just thought it was something else. You thought it was going away, because you just don't wake up overnight and just say, I have cancer. There's something that your body was talking to. Signaling, but we have to figure out what these signals are. People think that you need to get a knock on the door like this. No, but it's like the swelling, the fatigue, the shorter breath, just not feeling good, some aches and pains. This is the language, and it's such an amazing language that the body has, because it's just saying, check this out. You're doing something wrong. fix it.
Like a computer. I mean,
Exactly.
we're more invested in a computer. We know when it's running slow.
Totally.
We know when we have too many windows open, which
Totally.
is what I do. If all these windows open,
Yeah.
then I'm like, why is it running so slow?
Yeah.
There's too many windows open.
Yeah.
But we've learned to integrate with technology and see how that works. And now we're talking about the technology of the body.
Totally.
You know,
Totally.
so it is an incredible machine, and you're in it.
Yes. And you're in it.
You're in it. You know.
Let's not forget, you are that
yeah.
body, and the body is you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's still. And then sometimes I'm like looking at people. I'm like, God, you're so thirsty. They're like, why? I'm like, well, your mouth is dry. You can't even formulate the letters. They're like, you know what? I am thirsty.
Just absolutely. And sometimes they don't even feel thirsty, and they're absolutely dehydrated.
to max
Yeah.
level.
I know I spoke to somebody the other day. I won't say in case they're listening. And she said to me, she said, she was leaving the house. She said, can I have some water? And I gave it to her. She has this cough, this ongoing cough. And I'm like, do you want to take some with you? She goes, no. She goes, I only drink water when I have to.
There you go.
Yeah,
There
and I'm
you
like,
go.
well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
your whole body is falling
shut
apart.
down. Water. I mean, there's that book, 1,000 Cries for dehydration, like all the cries. I mean, that is the first step. Hydrate, detox, remove the things that you don't need, and then let's have a conversation about how you feel. Because if you don't do these 3 basic fundamentals of getting your body, we take showers every day. Every day we take a shower, we wash our face, we brush our teeth. But what about showering inside? What about pouring that blood?
We're so external.
Right.
That's why.
I said, why wouldn't we take a shower every day with like a mass amount of water, and then let's see how we feel?
Yeah.
Just by telling people to wake up in the morning to drink like 1 liter of water before brushing their teeth, and just pouring that large amount of water and waiting about 2 hours before you eat. I mean, that basic concept of that, people call me like, I can't believe it. I can't believe how this good. My eyes are better. My vision is better. My breathing is better. Because it pushes all the toxins
Yeah, from
out.
sleeping all night, and then you wake up.
Then you start eating
Yeah,
again.
and you start eating again.
And you didn't detox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff turns to sludge in the lymph system.
yeah.
It's like mud. It's
Totally.
like having mud. But I think it's the educational process, and I wish in schools we were better prepared in that sense, but they don't either, because some of the teachers look incredibly sick.
Oh yeah.
So
the nutrition in school is crazy. They still talk about you need protein from a flesh of an animal. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they don't. There's just so much that is not known. So I think, and one other thing, I'm just going to mention this. I'm glad you mentioned coffee, and that damn Red Bull, and
my
all
gosh.
these energy
Drinks.
drinks that's making people's heart just like palpitate.
Anytime that I ever see someone with like atrial fibrillation, which is that irregular heartbeat, or anytime if I see someone that has massive palpitations, 100%. They had caffeine, they had some form of Red Bull, energy drinks. People just don't even just drink water. It's like, I'm like, when do you drink water? Well, I have like soda, or I have juice. I'm like, no, I'm not, when I say water
Or Gatorade.
I mean water.
Don't forget.
I know. And even the athletes, they get all these contracts for free, and they get these Gatorade, like all you can drink Gatorade, and none of them drink. Every professional athlete from A to Z, I have to say, except like the sprinters, like the U.S. Olympic sprint team that I work with, they never drank water.
It's crazy. But then if it
They
doesn't,
sweat like forever. And then you talk about why do they have like mineral deficiencies, which they don't know.
Like
when they
later
get
on? Yeah.
joint. It's all mineral.
Yeah.
What is it?
Arthritis.
It's mineral. Out of the bone, you've depleted the whole mineral system, and you've been sweating for 8 hours a day since you were like 6 years old, because you've been an athlete since that time.
Right.
And where did you put the minerals back in?
They don't. Then they
But they got the sugar.
Oh yeah, and then the sodium potassium
Oh, yeah.
balance is completely off.
Yeah.
And so if you don't see it now, which I was saying to my stepson, then later on in your life, then you're wondering why this is happening. But nobody ever goes back and equate it to the lifestyle, the diet lifestyle, as well as just the overall lifestyle.
Yes.
So anyway, so the bottom line of it with your foundation, with your center, what else can you say in the sense of if anybody is listening that wants to experience this, wants to be a part of it, You mentioned the 35 days. Now, just to
We
be
can break
clear,
that down
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
It's a little bit confusing sometimes, and not knowing that that's what, the studies came out. They're like 5 days a week for 35 days, and that's all you get in a whole entire lifetime. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't get 35 blood pressure medicines. Why would you only get 35 hours? So this whole concept of you only needing this much. Now that we've been working in this field for 20 years, it is clear that EECP and this lifestyle program is a lifestyle program. And people can come in 1 day a week. People can come in twice a week. It's about the long-term usage of the treatment is what I've seen. Now we've had people with us for like 15 years. They're in their 80s. My oldest 2 or 3 patients I have, they're 101, 102 years old, and they've been with me until when they were like in their late 80s. What I've seen now, which is clear to me, is that you do EECP, you have it in your life. Because every time you come, you're detoxing the lymphatic system, you're improving the immune system, you're circulating that oxygenated blood, you're decreasing inflammation, you're resting your organs, and you're taking care of yourself. And then you go back to your everyday life and you get to see how amazing you feel to be able to do more work. We have 2 clinics. One is in the west side of LA, off in Wilshire area, and we have another one here by the Forum by the LAX area. People are more than welcome to call and come in. Go on the website, Global Cardio Care. They can go on our YouTube channel, punch in Global Cardio Care. We have over 80 testimonials. I mean, really emotional testimonials from people that had lost hope. And that's one of the things that I think when patients come in here, the medical system has failed them. They've lost hope. They don't even believe that there's anything is left for them to be done. But we empower them and we show them that, what do you mean? It's just diabetes. We can fix this. This is nothing. It's blockage of the arteries. Okay, well, we can grow new arteries. We can lower the inflammation process. So people could come in and try a complimentary session. They can call, they can set up a complimentary EECP session, come in, get evaluated, look at the blood flow, take a look at the circulation, and really see how this simple, non-surgical, no medication therapy can change your life for such a simple thing to do about moving your own blood. But we'd love for people to come and try it out for free, 1 session.
That's right. And you know what? This beats Botox.
Oh my God, that's a whole other story we can get into for sure. For sure.
But yeah.
And a booty lift. You can
exactly.
There's a booty lift.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love feeling good. And I am so grateful to the fact that I've been guided to people like you because my body, it's so important to me that I feel good, and I feel like I don't feel any different than in my 20s. I feel just as...
You look just like you're 20. Okay? I didn't see you when you were 20, but you look like you're 20 years old. I always tell people, Sonia, I always say, you know what? I've been on this program for 20 years. I don't even know what normal people feel like, because I just feel like so good all the time.
And you look great. You look absolutely. You look like what you're talking about, and that's really important.
And that's important because that's some of the time we're going to the doctors for them to help us, and they need some help first.
Jeez, I know. I've seen a couple of situations like that. Somebody trying to sell us one of those machines, the alkaline machines.
Oh yeah.
And this lady was like, I mean, she was obese, but at the same time, she's telling us how great it is, and she's sweating nothing
That's not gonna work
else.
Out. Something is wrong.
Something is, and we're like, really? Maybe you're not drinking enough alkaline water.
Maybe this isn't working.
Yeah, maybe you need more than the alkaline water.
You gotta represent.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so how do people get a hold of you? The website?
GlobalCardioCare.com, YouTube channel, Global Cardio Care. They can get on the website. They can sign up for a free session. They can call us at 310-412-8181. That's 310-412-8181. All they have to say is that they heard us on your podcast with Sonia and that they want to come in and try a free EECP session out. And they can figure out which location. They want the one by LAX or they want the one by UCLA. And we would love to do this work and to provide this service. And Sonia, I'm just so grateful for everything that you have been doing for so long and bringing all this attention to this meaningful work that you presented, and it's just an honor to be with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also, I want to let people know, if you don't live here, and sometimes I hear from people that say they're coming on vacation for a couple of weeks, well, why not incorporate this
Definitely.
in those couple of weeks that you're going to be here? So I just want to throw that out.
Definitely. We have people from all over United States. I have people from Canada, from Europe. I have people from Africa coming, and so they come, and even if they're here for 2 weeks, we can do 2 hours a day. That ends up giving them over 15 treatments, 20 treatments. So we are all about tailor make. We will make it happen. You show up, we'll do the rest with you. Together, we will do it together.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sara. It's definitely been an honor, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again, because
Yes.
We'll see how this goes in terms of questions, because I know there are going to be people with questions, and then we'll kind of go from there as well, because I love talking to you. I could talk to you for like 3 hours.
Me too.
Anyway, all right. Well, that's it. And as always, you know what I say: question everything and live life to its fullest. Thank you so much for listening to Sonia Unplugged.